Alice in Chains fans, and welcome to episode number 4 of the Let's Learn Facelift Guitar and Analysis series. Today we will uncover what it means to bleed the freak. Does it represent the destruction of those with an opposing belief system? Is it symbolic of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ? Does it have something to do with paying some sick fuck at the local freak show to stab him in the jugular vein with a gardening tool? Or is it more in line with an us against the world mentality? Whatever the meaning is, you can guarantee that our cups will runneth over, or shall runneth over with knowledge, through every single note, every single time change, every single chord progression, and a full, detailed musical analysis of Bleed the Freak by Alice in Chains. Bleed the Freak is characterized by everything we've come to know and love from Alice in Chains. Great melodic hooks, unique vocal arrangements, unique guitar arrangements, and some very cool bass and drum parts to add a little extra flavor to the mix. Oh yeah, and don't forget to tune your guitar down a half step to E flat standard. So we have E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, and E flat. That'll guarantee you match the sound of the recording. Let's talk about the first guitar riff that comes in with those nice arpeggios. This opening riff uses all arpeggios from the B minor scale, and I'm going to refer to them as if we were in standard tuning. So the second fret is going to be B, which is where we start, by the way. I'll play the first half slowly. So here we go. We start on a B power chord, arpeggiating like such. Okay, so we have a few different things. A straight eighth note pattern going throughout the entire thing. Ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And if you count out how many times you play each chord, or how many notes there are on each chord, it'll make this rhythm a little easier to digest. The first one, we have 3 notes on the B. Then syncopated, we come in on the upbeat for another 3 notes on this G. And make sure you play that G with that configuration. I see a lot of people online playing it like this, power chord, and then playing the E to the D string and G string. It's not the D and G, it's the A and G string. So you go like this. Alright, so 3 notes a piece, just like that. And then we hit 2 notes on this A chord that kind of looks like this. So we only have a beat on that one note, or that one chord, and that's an A add 9, which then comes to a full measure of this. It's that original B power chord, but on top of the note E. This creates an E add 9, without a third, by the way. But it still looks like a B power chord on top of an E, but we're going to consider it an E add 9, alright? So one more time, nice and slow with all that. B, that's the 1. G, that's the flat 6. A, that's the flat 7. And then this is the 4 chord. Full measure there. The second half of the riff uses the exact same shapes, but with a slightly different rhythm. And here's that second half slow. So we have a little bit of extra syncopation and a little bit of an extension on those first 3 chords. If you notice, we have straight eighth notes going through the first 5 beats instead of 4, or actually all 8 beats to be specific, but here we're only doing it for 5. Check it out. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and, before we have a slight break on that open E string. So that's 5 beats of straight eighth notes overlapping into the second measure. So that's kind of interesting, leaving us with only a couple beats to arpeggiate at the end. Arpeggiate at the end. You get what I'm saying. So here it is. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Alright, just arpeggiating the same shapes. This riff goes through 4 times total as all of the other elements kick in, but there is a slight variation on the final time. And all that happens is a held out E chord at the very end, like this. 1, 2. See how that E is just held out? It gives it some nice space, some atmosphere before we move into the first chorus part. A nice little touch in terms of the composition. Now hold on. We can't move on just yet. There's a lot of other elements to uncover here. Starting with the 12-string acoustic guitar. That's right, but you didn't know that was in there, or you probably did. I'm a silly Billy, just assuming you didn't know that, but I didn't really know that, so hey, take it for what it's worth. But there is a 12-string acoustic guitar, and we're going to go over that right now. There are actually 2 12-string guitars that come in during the duration of this riff. The first 12-string comes in on the second half of the first arpeggio pattern like this. It comes in on just the right speaker. And notice how it comes in before the entire riff was even finished. On the second time around, the other 12-string comes in on the left speaker to add a little chime to it and to double it to give it more body. And that continues throughout the rest of the intro, being played 3 times total. And you want to make sure when you're picking this on a 12-string you have nice wide pick strokes because you have 2 paired strings. And in order to get that chimey sound, you got to hit both strings at the same time, just like this. And honestly, probably the perfect production move for this part because it adds more percussive chime, it adds more body to the experience, and the doubled 12-string gives it a nice chorus sound, which is very pleasing to the ear, by the way. That's a very common production tool, is doubling 2 guitars and panning them hard left and right. This one just happens to start on the right speaker and then add in another one on the left speaker as that one is still playing. So a really cool production effect by the Alice in Chains boys, or I should say, most likely Jerry Cantrell came up with that. There's also another cool bass line that comes in on this introduction as well, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, but we're going to go over it in detail. This bass line is very melodic and holds a lot of movement. Check it out right here. This bass line plays nicely with the second half of the riff, starting with a nice slide to the root, to a D, C sharp, and B resolution, which is the flat 3rd, 2nd, and root of the B minor scale. But because the chord we land on is an E, this note is actually the 5th of the chord. So we got ourselves a dirty arpeggio. We have ourselves a 12-string arpeggio. We have ourselves a nice melodic bass line. Think we have enough yet? Wrong. We don't have nearly enough. Let's take a look at Jerry Cantrell's noodly guitar lead over the top here. It's basically a set of 3 different half-step bends on an 8th note rhythm. Let's start with the first one. We're starting off with the 7th of the B string, just an F sharp to a G. And make sure you try to go all 8 beats on that, just like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and then we move on to the next one. Let's talk about what those notes are. The F sharp to a G is a 5th to a flatted 6th, one of the most tense intervals of all time. Alright, so you get that sound intrinsically with that bend. Okay, all 8 beats. Then we move up to another set of tense notes where we're on C sharp and D at the 14th. Another half step bend for 8 beats, and you want to try and make sure it doesn't die. You might have to dial in your sound a little bit to get the sustain necessary for this. But here, just let it kind of fade out. Don't force it. Another 8 beats. Now this is C sharp and D, which we actually get the 9th and the flat 3rd with that. Very tense. Okay? And then we come up the octave of the first 2 notes, F sharp and G. This time, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and hit. And then a nice spastic tremolo pick coming off of that. So this is the same 5th and flat 6 that we had before, but it's up here. Alright, basically, 5 beats, 5 and boom, hit the note, and do the fast rodent spasm that you've always wanted to do. Okay, 4 and 5 and boom. And then some tremolo picking at the end, spastically played of course. And then the final little bit to seal this off, give it almost like a rainstorm vibe, is this. Alright, so you're doing a little double stop bend here, but this is kind of an interesting one. Usually you do a whole step bend on the lower string with this kind of pattern like this. Right, but here it's just a half step because we don't have a G sharp in this key here, or at least not yet. It's a G natural and a B being bent down to an F sharp and a B. So that's the exact same interval, the 5th and the flat 6, but it's being done in a different way. A slowly and gradually released bend coming down a half step, alright? A lot of tension. Creating atmosphere and tension is the name of the game here, and these intervals definitely create that vibe. Let me just play those on top. I'm not going to bend them or anything, but I'm going to play them melodically on top of the B, so you can hear how it really sounds. So here's the 5 and the flat 6. That's the first one. Very nice. And then this one, the 2 to the flat 3. You hear all that tension, very nice sound, and then we go up an octave for the last one. And then that final bend, this one, if you think of it as like a G chord going to a B minor, that's more of the sound that I'm hearing, right? A very, very nice sound, a beautiful sound, and a tense sound. But we can breathe a temporary sigh of relief now that we don't have nearly as many layers to go over for the next section, which is the first chorus of the song, which brings in this power chord progression, based on the same idea though. Easy peasy, just a heavier rendition of what we already played before. We start off with a B once again. B, G, A, E. B, G, A, G, E. And then it repeats. B, G, A, E. B, G, A, G, E. Alright, so really the only thing that exists here are rhythmic differences. Alright, so we have syncopated power chords being played on different parts. Now, check it out. The first syncopation on the first half is like this. 1, and, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so we're hitting on the downbeat of 1, waiting for the upbeat of 2, and then hitting every upbeat beyond that point, and stopping after the upbeat of 4. And basically just holding out for the next measure. The second half goes like this. 1, and 2. Alright, so syncopation all the way up to the downbeat of beat 2 on the following measure. Same idea, just a little more sparse. Seems pretty intuitive to me. But the next part that we come into has a little bit more for us to chew on pretty much all respects. Let's check out the guitar part in the verse. Just like with any good verse riff, we have an elongated ending that happens just before we start playing it, just like this. So on the very last part of that chorus part, we hit the low E, and then right on that next beat, right before we hit that, we go like this. Nice little trill from the open D to the second fret of that. So it's basically D to E. That's the flat seventh going to the root of that chord. So a very bluesy move on part of Jerry Cantrell. So here. 3, 4. So just before you hit that second measure, you start doing that continuous thrill. Thrill. It's a continuous thrill with Jerry Cantrell at all times. You better believe it, mother. But guess what? We got to do that, and we head right into this riff that goes like this. Check it out. Pretty demonic. Basically, every interval you were told not to play as a child. You better not do this at your elementary school. You will get shunned and sent in the closet. Alright, so let's check out some of those notes there. We have a B flat going between a B and, of course, a B flat. So that's the pickup, and then right on that downbeat we go B, B flat, B. Alright, just half step. And you get that nice motion there, kind of creepy. And then we go on the upbeat here with F to F sharp, and then chug along on that next measure. So we basically have a B going to an F as being the operative chord change there. Okay, so B, F. Those other notes, that B flat just kind of passes by, alright? It's not really significant in terms of the harmony here. Because B is the operative and the strong chord of that progression, and of course the F as well. This F sharp is not strong, the F is. So you can basically see that as B, or maybe B minor 7th, going to an F, and I'll go over why. But this is a major chord, F major, alright? So you have a tritone away, the 1 and the flatted 5th chord. Very, very, very cool sound. We also have an alternate ending at the very end, of course at the very end, right? And we basically hit a D and an A chord. So check this out, ready? Same 8th note rhythm. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right into the chorus, alright? So you basically hit a D power chord and an A power chord, open position, coming back into the B for another round of the chorus part. Alright, so let's go over that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You hit those two chords on beats 3 and 4. And of course, we're plucking out thine eye on that as well. So you better watch out for all the biblical monstrosities that might come your way in your daily life. Anyway, let's keep moving on with the song. Anybody who has any idea about Alice in Chains, particularly Jerry Cantrell's guitar playing, knows that he likes to hide hidden guitar solos within various sections of the song. And this song is no exception to that rule. Let's listen to Jerry Cantrell's hidden lead part in the chorus. Basically plays right along with the lead melody line being sung by Lane Staley. And here it is slow. So basically we have a couple different sections here. Very simple, alright? B minor pentatonic. We're starting with a double stop bend. However, we're doing a unison on this one, so we're basically holding the 7th and then holding the 9th of the G and doing a whole step bend on the one string while holding the other one down static. Okay, to get that sound. And you want to try and keep it in tune, of course. I'm not always the best with that. Actually, usually I am, but not this time around. I kind of messed up at the beginning. But Get it right there, right in the sweet spot so that they both have kind of a chorus effect. And then you're going to do another bend and release on the same fret. And then do the same thing here, whole step bend on the 7th. And then resolve down to the root. It's literally just B minor pentatonic starting on an F sharp. So F sharp, which is the 5th, bend and release, to E, to D, and down to B. Just pretty simple. Now this next note here, you're going to hold out for basically the whole rest of the next phrase. Alright, so you're going to hold it out. And then on the next part, we're going to come in like this. So we come up to a higher note, we're just bending up to the root from the 10th fret to the 12th. Another whole step bend. And you're going to start with that double stop, unison, but then this one is just going to be normal and back into it, lots of vibrato, and you're going to slide out like that. Alright, so just one more time. And then boom. After the second chorus, we hit into the next verse, which is exactly the same as the previous. And then we hit chorus 3, which is also the same. But immediately after chorus 3, instead of hitting that break with the E, we're basically going to hit right into the solo. Alright? And the chord progression is a little bit different, so we're going to have to go over that real fast. Here's the original progression. We have B, G, A, E going around twice. And here's the new progression up one whole step from where we just were. C sharp is the 1, A as the flat 6, B is the flat 7, F sharp as the new 4. And of course going around twice. And it's basically all the same, just with some chugs in between. Okay, with all that in mind, let's hit into the guitar solo. We're going to listen to it by itself, and then we're going to break it down section by section. Just a brief affair that runs through the chord progression twice. And here's the first lick slow. A lot of palm mutes, as you can see. We're basically starting by doing another one of those unison bends, right? On the G and the B string. This time we're on the 4th and the 2nd fret. So we're bending into the note C sharp. And then bending and releasing. But before you totally get done, you got to interrupt it with this nice B to C sharp on the A string. Alright, so we're going down to the root note once again. So we're at root, flat 7, root. So we're kind of doing the opposite. The high register we're going to be on here, C sharp to B, and on the low register we're on B to C sharp, which is flat 7 at root. Alright, and then we got to go once again, all 8th notes there, but now we're outlining the 5th of the C sharp chord instead, right? And of course going between the 4th, but you understand the idea. Let's get it at full speed. Very cool. And I must note that it's more useful to compare all of these notes we're playing to a C sharp chord. Alright, even though the chord progression changes, and I did explain some extensions over, say, the E chord from before, but I'm just going to relate everything to C sharp since Jerry seems to be taking a broad brush approach to the situation. The second lick uses some more colorful notes in the C sharp minor scale. Alright, so we got quite a few chromatic notes in there as well. Let's take a look at the first part. We're basically doing this hammer and pull lick like this. And we eventually land on the D sharp, which is the 9th of the C sharp chord. But this first part kind of reminds me of Boston's Peace of Mind, if you've ever heard that, right? Right, but here we're going... Alright, just playing a very brief bit of it. And yeah, so we're just still outlining the C sharp minor chord, going up to the 5th, down to the flatted 3rd, and then into the 9th. And then that big chromatic run, which is very bluesy, but it's almost more like a bebop. bebop blues. It's a bebop blues because we have the flat 7, the major 7th, and the root, which is not unheard of. But then we have the minor 3rd, major 3rd, and the 4th. Alright, that's a little jazzy. And then we skip up and complete the rest of the pentatonic scale. Alright, Alright, so a simple run, and not really too hard to pull off, but you got to make sure you're getting those mutes down real nice. Alright, so let's check that out from the beginning of it, nice and fast now. And that's all you got to know for that second lick. So lots of fast 16th notes and syncopations going on. Remember, the riff underneath is completely syncopated. One, and, right? And the licks here are no exception to that rule. Check it out. Up to this point, up, and up. Those are all upbeats. A vast majority of these licks are going to be on upbeats. And this little repetitive phrase also uses even more upbeats and syncopation, alright? But very fast. We're basically just outlining a C-sharp minor chord like this. Alright, so simple on the surface. We've got to make sure we're moving fast enough. Let me play that slowly. Okay, so we're basically on the root here with a double, hitting a double stop there. That's the 9th and 9th. That's E and G sharp. That's just the 3rd and the 5th. Alright, so we have root, 3rd and 5th. You basically just want to follow that pattern. Mute, mute, not, mute, mute, not, mute, mute, not, mute. Alright? Double, 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 single. Nice and quick. And then this moves on to maybe possibly my favorite part of the solo. And here it is, kind of a Chuck Berry inspired thing. I'll play it slow. Very nice. Just classic blues pentatonic, right? And you basically want to make sure that you're bending the 11th fret up a whole step, alright, real quick. Go into the 9th fret. That's the same note, by the way. So these are both G sharps, the 5th of the chord. And then we're going to go like this. You want to do 3 pull-offs in a row, like that, before you do the final bend. 1, 2, 3. Very important that you do that, otherwise the rhythm's going to be way out of whack if you don't. And then pretty much we go release down to the 11th fret, and then right in that sweet spot. It's basically a C-sharp minor blues, bend, release, pull, mute, and then hitting that 9 and 9 once again, just like we did with that other syncopated repetitive part. So here it is again, fast. Ready? Pretty cool. And this is all basically C-sharp minor 7. We can look at everything like that, right? Because usually we just have the flat 7th, the root, the flat 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the flat 7th once again. Right? So just think about it like that in a theoretical sense, and it's much easier to digest. Now here is the final lick of the solo. And it uses more chromatics to get us to the end. And yes, that really happens at the very ending. Let's check out those chromatic notes first. This is straight up blues, but also with a little bit of bebop. Not as much bebop as we saw before, or bleeblop, like I said earlier, but still a little bit of bebop in there. Because we have the 4th going to the flatted 5th, that's the blue note, to the 5th, and then flat 7, major 7, and into the root again. That's kind of like Manic Depression by Jimi Hendrix, right? Alright, enough of that. Anyway, but we're basically just going real quick. More syncopated stuff too, right? We're going to land on those double stops. 11th fret to the 9th fret. Alright, 11, 11, 9, 9. Uh-oh. Don't use those two numbers on YouTube too much. You might get in trouble if you do that. But we have the 11th and the 11th fret. That's basically an F sharp, okay? And an A sharp. Interesting. Alright, let's talk about that A sharp a little bit. The A sharp does not occur naturally in the C sharp minor scale. Actually, an A natural does. Watch this. This is the root C sharp, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6. There's A natural. B, that's the flatted 7th back to the root. But my point is, an A natural is usually what occurs, well, naturally within the C sharp minor scale. So really, if we wanted to play it by the book, it would be like this. But that just doesn't have the pizzazz that this does, right? Much bluesier, much cooler, and much more reminiscent of the Allman Brothers Band. Now, this is basically using the Dorian scale, alright? Natural 6th on top of the C sharp. There's your natural 6. Very cool sound. And gets that boogie woogie across better than anything you can possibly imagine. As opposed to the A natural, which it just sounds too dramatic. This sounds a lot cooler. This sounds more like if we have our sunglasses on a motorcycle on top of a train carrying many boats across state lines, illegal boats across state lines, and we're just overseeing the operation because Jerry Cantrell is just that cool. And of course we have the final note, which is just a C sharp being bent up gradually a half step. Alright, now that's not normal, but the move that makes it normal is what happens next. Alright, so let me just play this full lick fast, and then we'll get into what happens there. So, and then hold it out until we get to the next part. So that last note, the C sharp, holds a lot of weight no matter which way you slice it, right? So the key center that we're used to is C sharp minor. Well, a D is a flatted 9th on top of that, or a flatted 2. And it sounds like that. Wow, that's incredibly dissonant, right? But the chord that ends off the solo is actually an F sharp, right? So if we have a D on top of an F sharp, that's a flatted 6th. Well, not as tense as a flatted 2, but still pretty damn tense no matter which way you slice it. So we have C sharp with a flat 2, and then F sharp with a flatted 6. That D has two different contexts here. But even better yet, this serves to get us back into the original key, which is B minor. Don't forget about that. We were in B minor for this entire song up until this point. But this is the flatted 3rd. If you put a D on top of a B, that's what it is. Check it out. And that just sounds beautiful. Still tense, right? But it's consonant. It's dramatic, yet consonant. That's a very important part. So, 3 different worlds. C sharp, flat 2. Ouch. F sharp, flat 6. Ouch. B minor, flat 3rd. Ow, my back kind of hurts. I'm just kidding. It feels great and it's healed because we're back in the original key. And that F sharp serves to pivot back into B minor very easily because it's the 5 chord, the dominant chord, which can very easily come right back into B. Hear how beautiful that sounds? Let me play it as a 7. It sounds so beautiful. I'm going to go back to B minor. Let me go back a little bit. Here's C sharp, A, B, A, F sharp, and then back into beautiful B minor like we've never left it before. Alright, let's get that whole solo one more time in slow-mo. Here we go. Pay careful attention to the positions. Here we go. Ready? The solo, we come back into the intro riff, which is now going to be considered the bridge. So we have a lot of the same ideas. Arpeggios, the electric guitar, the 12-string guitar comes in a little bit differently though, and I'll explain that a little bit later. We have guitar swells, and we also have atmospheric guitar soloing going on, and more vocals, but less concise than before. Let's take a listen to the guitar first, and then we'll get into everything else. This bit opens up with a volume swell. We're on the 9th fret of the G string, gradually bending up to what would be the 11th fret. Alright, so we're E to F sharp, we're bending into the 5th of the chord. Alright? We're going to hold it, a little bit of vibrato, and then we're going to hit this cool thing. Check this out. I just love that lick so much. It's basically the 9th fret of the E and the 7th of the B. It's like a power chord up really high and then a dive bomb, but it's the 9th and the 5th. So we're basically playing a B minor 9 here. And very tense, very colorful, and then slide into the 7th fret of the G, slight bend, a bluesy bend, it's the minor 3rd, and then into this. That's just the root, flat 7 and the root. So, pretty simple, just there to give us some atmosphere. That dive bomb is also accompanied by a really cool percussion instrument. Listen here. It sounds like they were using something called a thunder sheet, which is basically a thin sheet of metal that you can either wobble like this or strike. It sounds like they struck this to give it that, well, thunder effect. And that's all it is, just a sheet of metal making such a cool sound. Coming out of that thunderstorm, we harken back to the intro with a lot of these half-step bends going on. So we actually hit the first one we did all the way at the beginning of the song, like this. Okay, and then we hop up to the 4th fret. And then here, though, we're kind of doing some more tremolo picking. More of that rodent, spastic rodent style tremolo picking, right? Almost like you're doing a crescendo there as well, okay? And then we're going to rake into the 14th of the B string. This is the 9th, going like this, into the flatted 3rd. Very nice sound. Alright, coming out of the 14th on the high E, listen to that again. Beautiful sound. And then we have this really quick and suave move. Look at this. Jerry is actually hitting the 16th fret. That's a G sharp. And you know what that means? He's making the E chord that we're used to seeing in the chorus, or, well, we see it here as well, but hitting a G sharp on top of that, that's the major 3rd. Wow, awesome. And that's also indicative of the Dorian mode. Remember when I talked about that in the solo? Well, the G natural would normally be the B natural minor scale. But if we have a G sharp, that's the Dorian mode, alright? And that's exactly what's being touched upon very quickly, by the way, right? Very cool. And bending a whole step on the 17th fret, that's just going to F sharp. That's the 5th, nothing crazy there. But then we do another bend, a release, and then going into the 15th fret. That's just basically Mary Had a Little Lamb. See that? But in a minor key, of course. So it's the 5th, 4th, and flatted 3rd of the B minor. And then we cap this little bit off with this nice, kind of a bluesy idea. We're doing a half step, that's somewhere between a half and a whole step on the 9th fret of the G. That's E. Let's say we're just going a half step, that's F, which is the flatted 5th. Well, that's the blue note. Alright, so we're getting bluesy as hell with this. And then pulling off to the flatted 3rd for more dark tension, or dark consonants, I should say. The last bit that Jerry plays here is probably my favorite part of this entire bridge. So let's check that out real quick. Here it is slow. Very slow and melodic, right? Really awesome stuff, and it plays along perfectly with the chord progression. We're starting off with, of course, the root note, coming down the scale to the 5th, and then coming to D. That's the flatted 3rd, but what's interesting here, and we'll see, it's almost like a D major shape. especially when we come on the repeat, because that's the flatted 7th of the B, but it's also the 5th of a D chord. See that? That's like a D major shape on top of a B minor, which, as we know now, gives us a flatted 7th, alright? Play a D major chord on top of B, that's exactly what it gives you. So, and then we end it very nicely with this. Okay, so we're basically going to E, and that's the chord underneath, right? That's that build right before the final chorus. And we're bending from F sharp to E. That's basically the 9th going to the root. Another reason why this melodic bit works so well is because it's less busy than most of the other things that were going on. It's also in a lower range. It's far more subdued to allow Lane's vocals to cut through the mix and soar up to that real high note. Oh yeah, that's the one. So because of Jerry giving it space and giving it some room, it allows for the orchestration to breathe. Let's get all those licks one more time all the way through. Here we go. Little half step coming. G sharp, bluesy, and the melodic bit. Beautiful, beautiful. And resolution. Alright, so let's get into some of the finer points that are going on within this part. And that comes with the 12-string orchestration. Remember how it came in earlier on the right speaker only for the second half of the riff? Well, this time we come in on the second full time. So the riff plays one full time through just the electric guitar. And then the first 12-string acoustic comes in playing the same thing on the second time around in the right speaker only. And that continues for the third and fourth pass. The second 12-string comes in on the left speaker, but only for the third and fourth pass, so it gives an entire pass on the right speaker before coming in for the third. This whole bridge section is like having two separate guitar solos, but with two completely different functions to set them apart, right? So we have two leads, but they both do completely different things. The first solo, right, with the C sharp, is characteristic of all the rock and roll greats, right? And it even has a key change to establish its uniqueness within the song, right? It's saying, hey, this is a guitar solo, it's its own part, and we're gonna go into another world briefly. But then we come back and we do another kind of set of leads, but this time it's like a spaceship orbiting the planetary axis. Sometimes it's the center of attention, sometimes it's not. Just like with Lane's vocals, right? They both kind of dance and weave in and out of having the spotlight. And with that, we have reached the conclusion of this video. Lots of interesting stuff in here. Tons of surprises, honestly. I was not expecting that verse part to be so complicated in terms of the vocals and all of the arrangements and such. But thank you so much for coming along this journey. If you'd like to support the channel further, go to www.subscribestar.com/RomanOva music and you can pledge really any money you want per month. $1. $5 gets you access to extended cuts of these videos. So I talk a lot more in depth about this stuff, but only to patrons. Alright? I might leak some of them out as freebies for the cheapos out there. We'll call you the cheapos. Nothing against you. I know things are tough. The economy's not great, but hey, $5 a month, come on, you know. You're getting stuff. You're getting massive tutorials for free on here, you know what I'm saying? The least you could do is maybe send a little bit of green my way. $5 a month, come on, for some of this stuff, you know what I mean? You can also leave a tip. my PayPal tip jar. That's another way you can leave support. Other than that, just like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and just communicate with me, you know what I mean? I got a Telegram channel, I'm on X, we got some other stuff, you know? We got stuff all over the place here. And if, you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at my website, www.romanovamusic.com, okay? There's a big red button, you can get in contact with me, feel free to ask me some questions. If I'm not too busy, I'll get back to you. I also offer private lessons through there as well if you are interested. So, lots of stuff, lots of ways you could support the channel. But other than that, thank you so much everybody for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.